Hey, good morning. It's Wednesday, January 22nd, and time for another Everyday Thought. Thanks again for being here with me this morning. This morning, I want to talk about how the thinking of the culture around us has impacted us in ways that maybe are more subtle than we realize. We live in a time when we are focused on the end result. Whatever the end result is, then we're good with it. All's well that ends well is kind of a colloquial proverb to describe that way of thinking. But the Bible has a very different way of doing things because from God's perspective, all that we do is to be given over to Him as an act of worship. Our life is to be a living sacrifice to God, not just part of it, but all of it. So this is one of the values we see in studying the Old Testament, where God is very particular about how things are done. Sacrifices are done in a certain way. Offerings are done in a certain way. Worship is done in a particular way. In the New Testament, those things have all been moved into the era past the country and the legislative part of Israel, which is no more. But we now are ruled by the law of the heart. But we should still be just as concerned about having our methods match up with what our goals are. We want to bring, in terms of serving God, we want to bring methods and goals together so that they mesh like this. If we're doing methods over here that are antithetical, that are opposite to what God wants over here, we're not going to be able to get that meshing where you get this clashing. And I think sometimes as parents and in our relationships, we get frustrated because I'm trying to do the right thing, but boom, things happen that aren't good and aren't positive. But perhaps one thing we can do to address this is to bring our methods in line with the goals so that we have this type of unity instead of this. For example, God calls us to use pleasant words as we speak with our children, even when they've been infuriating in their activity. Doesn't mean we don't discipline, but I discipline using pleasant words. If you have an argument with someone and they've done something unfair to you, or the argument is wrong, or it's not being decent in the way they're doing about it, God says, return good for evil. Don't use the world's methods. That's what the passage in 2 Corinthians 10 urges us to. We fight, but not the way that the world fights. We fight in a way that brings honor to God. We use His methods, not our own. So we know when to turn the other cheek. We know when to carry the sword. We know when to speak up against evil. We know when to show mercy and grace and compassion. We use God's methods and means. When we use the world's means to try and accomplish God's purposes, that's called manipulation. And manipulation is a killer for relationships. You don't like it when someone's trying to manipulate you. I don't especially appreciate it either. So the purpose is not manipulation. The purpose is, how can I enter into life in such a way so that the things that I do bring honor to God and not bring about what I want right now. Parents, your children need to hear this. Your children need to see that you're not just wanting to make them make you happy, but rather your children need to see that you're concerned about helping them live this life in a way so that they can live in harmony with God. That's much different than mom and dad ruling the roost so that their life is comfortable. When you have friendships, you have relationships. If you have a spousal relationship where there's friction, the goal is not to get my husband or wife to act the way I want them to act so life is easier. The goal is, how can I show the beauty and mercy of Christ to someone who's brought in my life so that I can show mercy to them in the way mercy has been shown to me. You see, that's not manipulation. That's loving God. So let's think today, work at thinking. Instead of this, how can we bring our methods and God's goals together so that we have this good harmony of working together? Sometimes it's not very pretty like this picture, but we're still working together. May God bless you today. And as you pursue what it means to know Him in peace and not in manipulation, make His methods your methods. You have a great day.